Other news, the chief exec of NatWest Bank, that's Dame Alison Rose, has resigned after admitting that she was the source for a BBC story about Nigel Farage's bank details. In a statement, she said this: "I remain immensely proud of the progress the bank has made in supporting people, families and business across the UK and building the foundations for sustainable growth. My NatWest colleagues are central to that success, and so I would like to personally thank them for all that they have done." Ian standing by in the city. Hi, Ian. Speaking to Nigel Farage very shortly. He's claimed his first scalp. He wants more.
Yes, I think Nigel Farage is unlikely to leave it there. He's already made it clear, actually, on Twitter, Kay, that he wants to see Sir Howard Davies, the chairman of NatWest, step down as well. And the reason that he's gunning for him is because last night, about 5:45 yesterday evening, NatWest issued a statement in which Alison Rose outed herself as the source for the BBC journalist who did the reporting on Nigel Farage's personal banking details in the first place. It looked last night as though NatWest were going to try and tough it out. Howard Davies made it quite clear that he and the full NatWest board were standing behind Dame Alison Rose. I think what changed overnight was that Downing Street made very, very clear that it was concerned about this approach. You'll have seen the newspaper reporting today that you can see on the screen there. That's the man on the left, by the way. That's Peter Flavell. He is the chief executive of Coutts. That's Howard Davies on the right of the picture. The government made it very, very clear that they had concerns about Dame Alison Rose staying on. And bear in mind, of course, that the UK taxpayer still owns 38.69% of NatWest, and that is gives them quite a voice at the table. That is obviously a legacy of the rescue of what was then called Royal Bank of Scotland back in the financial crisis in 2008. I think the reason that the board wanted to stick with Alison Rose is because it's very, very difficult to get banking chief executives and just rustle them up out of nowhere. There wasn't a succession plan in place. Dame Alison had been in the CEO's position since November 2019, so she was just over 3 years into the job, and it wasn't particularly obvious that a successor was being groomed for her at this stage. Clearly, she felt that she had some way to go, and not least because Sir Howard Davies is due to step down as NatWest chairman anyway in the foreseeable future, and ideally with a company you don't want the CEO and the chairman going at the same time. So they thought they could tough it out. It was clear, I think, that political pressure probably did for Dame Alison Rose.
Well, the man of the moment, Nigel Farage, is with us now. Mr Farage, joining us live from Kent. Do you want the chief exec and the chairman going at the same time?
Well, first things first. I mean, Peter Flavell is the chief executive officer of Coutts. And, you know, I've written to him 3 times. I've not even had the courtesy of an acknowledgement, which I find totally extraordinary. So I don't see how his position can be tenable. And Howard Davies's job, and he describes himself as chairperson of the NatWest Group, his job is to oversee governance. The statement that went out, as Ian King has just said, at 5:45 yesterday, was Howard Davies endorsing Alison Rose staying in position despite the fact they'd accepted that she was the person that leaked to the BBC. And the first rule of banking is you have to obey client confidentiality. So they have made a complete and utter mess of this. And I frankly think any member of the board that supported that statement last night simply shouldn't be there.
And the chairman, he should go as well?
Look, on Friday, we have the 6-month figures for the NatWest Group. We also have an investor statement. The biggest investor, of course, being all of your viewers. It's the taxpayers. You know, we bailed these people out after their greed and stupidity back in 2008. And I think the lead investors need to put in place very quickly a new interim board.
So should the chairman go, yes?
Of course, absolutely. Oh, no question about it. His job is to oversee governance, and that governance has been a complete shambles.
Let me run through these questions, Mr Farage, if I may. Have you sought compensation from NatWest Coutts?
No.
Are you going to?
No idea.
You've no idea, or you're not going to? Sorry, I didn't catch that.
I've absolutely no idea. Right. Let me tell you, this thing has totally absorbed my life for many, many months. After I was given this summary notice that my bank accounts would be closed with no explanation given whatsoever, and then the great lie, the lie that it was being done for commercial reasons. And when I finally got my subject access request back from Coutts Bank, made it perfectly clear this was a political decision. And my life has been absorbed, not just, by the way, with fighting my case and trying to get another bank account open, which I have failed totally so far to do, but because I've been approached by literally thousands of people all over this country who have been unfairly closed down by NatWest and some of the other banks too.
Let me rattle through these, Mr Farage, if I may. So if you've not got a bank account, where do you keep your money? Under the bed?
Well, at the moment, I still have money with Coutts Bank, and the closure, the final closure, it's been extended once. The final closure is due fairly shortly. What I will do after that, I don't yet know.
Would you accept their offer of having your account remain open with them?
Well, it's very odd, isn't it? I mean, Dame Alison Rose has written me 2 letters, giving me unreserved apologies, but she absolutely has not made any offer of the account staying open. So clearly an account staying open allows me to exist. I mean, you can't exist in the modern world without a bank account. You effectively become a non-person.
How many other banks have turned you down?
10.
Which ones?
I'm not going to name them all. Right now, I'm fighting a big battle with NatWest and Coutts. I don't want to take on the whole industry.
OK, so the chief execs of those banks, you don't want them to step down as well?
I think the problem here is that there is a culture that has overtaken the banking industry, where they've gone way beyond being banks. They've now taken a whole series of political stances, and it would appear they want to be moral arbiters. And now that we know that the banks intend to monitor the social media accounts of their customers, the time has come to put a stop to it. And I have to say, I'm delighted that Andrew Griffith, the City Minister, is going to get 19 of the big banks into the Treasury today to say, stop this. Stop judging people on their legally held political opinions. Get about your business of being a bank. And I hope that today marks the moment when there is a turning point in this.
What were you most offended by what Dame Alison did?
What I was most offended by was the report that I had to publish, which contained some really very defamatory and unpleasant stuff. And I had to publish that report in full to deal with the lie that had been given to Simon Jack, the business editor of the BBC. That's been the worst part of this for me.
The suggestion was that you didn't have enough money in Coutts, and that's why they were closing you down. Do you have enough money in Coutts?
Read pages 3 and pages 10 of the subject access request, and you will see that at the time the decision was taken to exit me, which was taken on the 17th of November, 2022, and at that moment in time, they said the account is commercially viable.
Do you have enough money to have an account at Coutts?
I repeat, the account is commercially viable.
Do you, though?
The account is commercially viable. That's what matters.
OK, so that means you've got at least £1 million there. And is it £3 million worth of savings?
Let me assure you that I have been contacted by scores of Coutts customers who've never had anything like the amounts of money that Dame Alison Rose has been suggesting.
Yeah, but I'm not asking them about them, Nigel. I'm asking you whether you've got enough.
I am not going to answer your question about my financial status unless you tell me what yours is.
I don't have enough money to have an account at Coutts, no.
Oh, come on, all those years at Sky News, I'm sure you
I know. I thought you might use that as an opportunity to talk about other channels that might pay me more, but I'm very happy where I am, let me tell you that. As far as Alison Rose is concerned, I mean, her career is over now. What do you think should happen to her? Should she have a job in banking or not?
She introduced this poisonous culture. You know, it's funny. It masquerades as being about diversity and inclusion. Inclusion of everybody, unless they have a different point of view. And then they're to be excluded. Then they're to be excommunicated. This is really nasty, unpleasant, divisive identity politics. It was a massive mistake to introduce this into the bank. And whether she has a future career in banking or not, I rather doubt it, because she's broken the fundamental rule of banking, which is client confidentiality. But, you know, she hasn't done too badly. I mean, she earned £5.25 million last year. That's far better than you and I. She
could have a bank account at Coutts, couldn't she? Why do you think Why do you think the Prime Minister is so keen to back you? I bet you never thought that would happen.
No, I tell you what, actually, I think every MP is aware over the last couple of years of the letters they have been getting from their constituents, the number of business accounts that have been closed down, the attempt to drive cash out of the system. I now think that tens of thousands of people have had their business accounts closed, have had to live in fear. Many have been ruined as a direct consequence of it. And that is because the regulations around banking are wrong, they're over the top, and we're using a sledgehammer to miss the nut. We're not getting the international drugs gangs and the real money launderers. It's the innocent that are paying a huge price. And that is why I went public. I didn't go public for me. I went public because I realized there were tens of thousands of people out there who've been very unfairly treated, and they have got no one to speak for them. And I am going to be their voice going ahead from here. I want to see in banking a cultural change. I want to see legal changes. And ultimately, where I want to get to, and this is where we used to be, I think banking is a fundamental right in the modern world. You can't exist without a bank account. Everybody in this country should be entitled to a bank account and indeed a business account.
So just to clarify, your Coutts account is going to be closed down. Are you going to take up the offer of a NatWest account?
Well, the problem is that the NatWest account that was offered was only a personal account. It wasn't a business account. So what use is that to me?
Oh, OK. So what are you going to do then?
Well, I don't know. My last letter to Peter Flavel, the CEO of Coutts, was, I said, well, on the day you close me out, I'll come to the bank and collect the money in cash. But I haven't had a response to that yet. I mean, look, you and I both know you cannot exist on cash alone. I'm looking at some fintech solutions, and they're organizations where you can receive and pay out money, and it's all perfectly legal, but it's not the same as a bank account. You can't earn interest on deposits. You can't borrow money. I mean, do I have a right? Do I, Nigel Farage, have a right to a bank account? That's, I think, a pretty fair question.
Yeah. OK, let me ask you this question, finally, because I know lots of people will want to talk to you today, Mr Farage. Have you ever said anything inappropriate to a journalist over dinner?
Oh, I think we all have. I mean, I think we all say and do inappropriate things. And that is what is so interesting, that whatever Alison Rose said to Simon Jack on that evening, Deborah Turness, the CEO of BBC News, confirmed in her apology letter to me that the next day they went back and double-checked whether they could use the statement, and Rose said yes. There is no misunderstanding here. Frankly, Alison Rose, supported by her board, tried to lie their way out of this. And in the end, it was the BBC that were telling the truth.
It's good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed for joining us, Mr Farage. Thank you.